911, what's your emergency?
There's a bear! He's attacking us! Please, hurry! It's happening right now!
Okay, stay calm. Where are you right now?
We're at Catmy Lake, but it's too late! He's gone! The bear won't let go! Help us! Please!
The Alaskan wilderness stretched out like a vast cathedral of raw, untouched beauty, a place where nature ruled with a majestic, indifferent hand. Jagged, snow-capped peaks sliced through the misty clouds, ancient glaciers grooved deep into rugged valleys, and crystal-clear rivers wound their way through dense spruce forests alive with the chorus of birdsong and the crisp scent of pine and cold earth. The air held a quiet, sacred stillness, broken only by the occasional rush of wind or the distant call of a raven. For many, this was the last true frontier, a wild expanse where the laws of man held little meaning, and the untamed forces of nature demanded reverence and caution. But within this breathtaking wilderness lurked creatures of immense strength and primal instinct forces as old as time itself, commanding respect, and above all distance. This is the story of a man named Marcus Halden, a self-styled bear whisperer, whose conviction that he could bridge the gap between human and beast would lead him down a perilous path few have dared to tread. For 13 summers, Marcus plunged deep into the heart of Catmy National Park, a remote sanctuary where grizzly bears roamed free, believing he shared a rare, almost mystical bond with these formidable animals. His camp was nestled amid towering spruce and shadowed clearings, a fragile outpost on the edge of wilderness. Marcus named the bears Mr. Coco Tabitha Smokey, as if they were old friends, even family. He filmed his encounters with a handheld camera, capturing stunning, intimate moments, a bear cub tumbling through wildflowers, a massive male pausing in the sun-dappled shade, eyes flickering with wary intelligence. To Marcus, these were not wild beasts, but beings to be understood and loved. Yet beneath the warmth of his words and gentle gestures, the razor-thin line between admiration and danger was ignored. By the autumn of 2003, in one of the park's most isolated corners, Marcus's extraordinary experiment ended in tragedy. Alongside his girlfriend Amy Hugenard, a compassionate and cautious physician assistant, he confronted the brutal reality that no matter how close one feels to nature's giants, some boundaries exist for survival. Amy often voiced her fears in private, whispering worries about the large males and the risks they posed, warnings drowned out by Marcus's unshakable belief in their connection. Park rangers and wildlife experts had repeatedly cautioned Marcus. "You're putting yourself and the bears at serious risk," they urged over radios and in meetings. Regulations demanded humans keep a safe distance. Habituated bears lose their fear and become dangerous, often leading to fatal outcomes for the animals themselves. But Marcus dismissed these warnings, confident his bond transcended the rules, his passion blinding him to the harsh truths. On Marcus. The grizzly bear Ursus arctos horribilis is no ordinary creature. Towering over 6 feet when standing upright and weighing as much as a small car, these apex predators wield razor-sharp claws nearly 4 inches long, capable of ripping through trees and flesh alike. Their powerful jaws crush bones with ease, and their senses, especially their legendary sense of smell, 7 times stronger than a bloodhound's, make them masters of the wild. Despite their bulky frame, grizzlies can sprint at speeds exceeding 30 miles per hour, leaving any human far behind. Autumn in the Alaskan wilderness marks a perilous turning point for the grizzly bears. As the icy fingers of winter creep closer, these massive creatures enter a phase known as hyperphagia, a ravenous, almost desperate feeding frenzy, where every bite, every calorie consumed becomes a lifeline. This isn't mere hunger, it's an unyielding survival imperative. The bears gorge themselves, relentlessly bulking up vital fat stores to endure the brutal months ahead. But in 2003, the usual bounty was scarce. The salmon runs, once roaring and thick with life, had sharply dwindled. The sweet, ripe berries that carpeted the forest floors were long picked over. Food shortages turned the bears restless, irritable, and far less forgiving. A grizzly indifferent in early summer could transform into a lethal force by October, every shadow, every sound a potential threat to its claim on survival. Wildlife biologists and seasoned park rangers echoed a single urgent message over and over: respect the bear's space, never underestimate them, and always carry bear spray, a potent capsicum-based deterrent that serves as a crucial last line of defense. Hikers were warned to make noise to avoid startling the animals, and strict rules governed food storage. Everything had to be hung high or locked away in bear-proof containers. Breaking these rules wasn't just careless. It was a direct invitation to disaster. Yet Marcus Halden, the man at the center of this tragedy, chose to flout every safety protocol. He carried no spray, no firearm. He camped directly on bear trails and feeding grounds. He spoke often of being accepted by the bears, projecting human emotions onto wild creatures governed by raw instinct and survival, blinding himself to the dangers inherent in such dangerous anthropomorphism. This slow slide toward catastrophe didn't happen overnight. Park rangers watched with mounting dread as Marcus's behavior grew more reckless year after year. He was frequently caught on his own camera, standing just feet away from enormous grizzlies, reaching out, singing, whispering, even scolding these predators like they were tame pets. One infamous video showed him intervening in a fierce territorial dispute between two males, shouting at one to back off. The arrogance was breathtaking and terrifying. In the wild, such interference risked death, whether by being caught in the crossfire or becoming a target oneself. Marcus survived multiple mock charges, moments when bears lunged at him, only to veer away at the last second. He misread these clear warnings as tests of their bond, mistaking recklessness for courage. For the Park Service, enforcing safety became a nightmare. Marcus's remote camps made consistent oversight nearly impossible. And since he wasn't harming animals or breaking poaching laws, their options were limited to warnings and citations, all ignored. He's going to become a statistic, one ranger confided to a colleague, a grim prophecy coming true. Marcus refused to carry bear spray or any weapon, believing such tools would betray the trust he thought he'd earned with the bears. Instead, he camped boldly in open bear corridors, convinced immersion meant connection, oblivious to the extreme vulnerability this created for himself and for Amy Hugenard, who, though loyal, was far less certain and far more fearful. That autumn of 2003 was unusually harsh. Park biologists reported a critical food shortage, especially a collapse in salmon runs the bears' essential fuel for hibernation. Bears were hungrier, more desperate, and dangerously unpredictable. Marcus and Amy lingered later than most visitors dared, venturing into deep October when bear aggression peaked. They were gambling against nature itself, playing a high-stakes game where the wild held all the cards. On the morning of October the 5th, the air was sharp and biting winter's threat palpable as their breath steamed in the cold. Camped near the edge of Catmy Lake, a well-known bear hotspot, Marcus and Amy prepared for what they believed would be their last full day in Catmy before their air taxi arrived. What ignited the violence remains a haunting mystery, lost in the terrifying silence before the storm. But the recovered video camera, left running with the lens cap on, captured 6 minutes of raw, bone-chilling terror. The tape burst into life with an explosion of sound. Marcus's voice, usually steady and calm, now cracks with sheer panic. "No, no, get off me." His words choke on fear as the violent struggle unfolds. Heavy thuds pound the earth. Branches snap like kindling, and a deep, guttural roar reverberates through the wilderness, shaking the ground itself. Amy's voice rings out next. High, urgent, desperate, "Fight back, Marcus. Fight back." Her cries mix with the chaos, trying to spur him on, or perhaps just echoing her own terror. The sickening sounds of tearing flesh punctuate the frenzy. Marcus's screams grow raw, filled with agony. Then Amy's voice returns sharp, commanding but laced with terror. "Play dead. Marcus. Play dead." The advice is chilling, a last-ditch hope in the face of a predation attack unlike any defensive encounter. This was not a bear scared off by bluff or flight. It was a force of nature claiming its victim. Amy's incredible courage shines through the audio. She screams not just in terror, but in defiant resistance, battling the bear's overwhelming power. Her own desperate cries blend with the horrifying sounds of gnawing and ripping. The voice breaks through the darkness, a strangled sob, then a desperate gasp, "I'm being killed." The recording swells with the haunting symphony of thuds tearing flesh and deep guttural growls. Each sound fills the tight space of the audio, painting a chilling picture of unimaginable horror. Timothy's cries fade, replaced by the grim, wet sounds of the bear's relentless assault. Amy's struggles grow faint too, her screams dissolving into barely audible whimpers swallowed by the wilderness itself. The air around the scene must have been thick with the metallic, coppery scent of blood, the frigid autumn chill, doing nothing to numb the brutal reality unfolding. The camera picks up the heavy, ragged breathing of the bear, the sickening sound of chewing punctuating the silence that surrounds them. For 6 excruciating minutes, that lens bore witness to the final moments of Timothy Halden and Amy Hugenard, a chilling testament to the wild's unpredictable, untamable power. Then abruptly the tape runs out, leaving a silence that screams louder than any voice echoing in the minds of those who would later uncover it. The dawn of October 6, 2003 dawned gray and heavy with clouds. Willie Fulton, a veteran air taxi pilot who had flown Marcus and Amy countless times to and from Catmy National Park, began his routine approach toward their usual camp near Kaflia Lake. But unease crept over him like a shadow, no familiar wave, no sign of movement in the camp. An unnatural stillness hung heavy, a stark contrast to the lively send-offs he'd grown used to. Touching down carefully, his plane's floats skimmed the water's surface with practiced precision. What met his eyes was a scene from a nightmare: tense, torn-apart gear scattered like leaves in a storm, and a sickening, oppressive stench hanging thick in the crisp autumn air. Then the sight that froze his blood: a massive grizzly bear, a dark, hulking figure sitting deliberately atop unmistakable human remains. Panic surged through him. This was no simple disarray. It was a massacre. Without hesitation, Fulton pushed the throttles forward, water churning beneath the propellers, as he rose swiftly into the cold sky, heart pounding like a war drum. He flew straight to the nearest ranger station, his mind haunted by the horrific scene. The alarm went out instantly. Rangers, battle-hardened by decades in Alaska's wilds, and state troopers rushed to the site, urgency sharp in the air. In the park's 85-year history, nothing like this had ever occurred: a double fatal bear attack. When they arrived, the devastation confirmed Fulton's grim report. The camp lay in ruins, the dismembered, partially consumed remains of Marcus Halden and Amy Hugenard scattered among the wreckage. Even seasoned rangers accustomed to grim sights described it as the most horrific scene they had ever faced. The air was heavy with the metallic tang of blood and a pervasive sense of dread. 2 bears were spotted nearby. The first, an ancient male estimated to be nearly 28 years old, a venerable age for a wild grizzly, showed no fear of the approaching humans. His lethargic demeanor in proximity to the remains cemented the rangers' grim suspicions. With heavy hearts, knowing this was an irreversible act, they euthanized the bear. A swift autopsy revealed chilling proof: human remains within his stomach, unequivocally marking him as the attacker. A second, younger bear charged the rangers in aggression and was also put down. Amid the wreckage, a haunting discovery emerged: Marcus's video camera still recording silently with the lens cap on, capturing 6 minutes of raw terror. This tape became the most harrowing piece of evidence, a chilling auditory witness to their last agonizing moments. Recovering the couple's remains was a painstaking, emotionally draining task for the first responders, made all the more harrowing by the attack's brutality. News of the tragedy spread swiftly, striking the park community deeply and shocking the world beyond. Marcus Halden's story had reached its devastating conclusion. Autopsies confirmed the brutal force of the attack, leaving no doubt about the immense power wielded by the grizzly bear that claimed their lives. The presence of human remains in the bear's stomach delivered gruesome, irrefutable evidence. This was not a defensive encounter, but a predatory act born of hunger and desperation. Media outlets worldwide picked up the story, often sensationalizing the brutal end of the grizzly man, cementing the tragedy in public consciousness. Yet it was filmmaker Werner Herzog's 2005 documentary, Grizzly Man, that immortalized Marcus's story. Herzog's stark philosophical lens wove Marcus's extensive, never-before-seen footage with intimate interviews from friends, family, and wildlife experts, exploring the complex motivations behind his fatal defiance of nature's boundaries. Herzog portrayed Marcus not as a fool, but a tragic dreamer, a man whose idealism collided catastrophically with the indifferent wilderness. The film ignited fierce debate. Was Marcus a courageous conservationist who sacrificed himself for his passion, or a reckless narcissist whose hubris caused needless deaths? Wildlife experts universally condemned his approach, warning that habituating bears to humans creates dangerous animals prone to conflict, often leading to their euthanasia. This bitter irony underscored Marcus's mission: in trying to protect the bears, he inadvertently increased their risk. The haunting 6-minute audio recording, never released publicly out of respect, became a focal point of the narrative. Herzog himself was visibly shaken upon listening and cautioned one of Marcus's closest friends never to hear it. The raw, unfiltered horror of those final moments rendered the tragedy unforgettable. Legally, no charges were filed. The deaths were ruled an unfortunate but avoidable consequence of wild animal behavior. However, the incident sparked renewed debate within the National Park Service about managing human-wildlife interactions and enforcing safety protocols across vast remote wilderness areas. Public reaction remained divided. Some mourned Marcus as a passionate advocate celebrating his love for nature. Others condemned his arrogance and recklessness, arguing his actions disrespected the very wilderness he claimed to protect. Protests against extreme wildlife tourism gained momentum. Marcus Halden's legacy remains complex and unsettling, a stark testament to nature's raw power and the immutable truth that humans may observe, appreciate, and strive to protect the wild, but can never truly become part of it without recognizing its brutal indifference. He believed his devotion granted him immunity in a world ruled by instinct, dreaming of a harmony that survival laws simply do not allow. In that unforgiving Alaskan autumn, the bear, driven by ancient hunger, saw not a friend but prey. The camera, silently running, recorded 6 minutes of terror and then only the wind.